Hello, I'm Edward Roski, and welcome to the AI News. We're here for those intelligent people who only have time to deep dive into AI for a few minutes every so often, but always want to look smarter than they are about AI. March 2026 was the month AI stopped being abstract. Companies cut thousands of jobs and explicitly blamed AI. A flagship product from a flagship frontier model vendor burned $15 million a day and was killed for it. The Pentagon punished a company for having ethics, an AI agent hacked McKinsey in 2 hours, and some guy used ChatGPT to design a cancer vaccine for his dog. Let's start with war. The Pentagon demanded unrestricted military access to Claude. Anthropic said no on February 26th over surveillance and autonomous weapons concerns. Hours later, OpenAI signed basically the same deal. The Trump administration then designated Anthropic a supply chain risk and banned Claude from government use, although they then used it in the war in Iran. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei called OpenAI's framing, and I quote, straight up lies, and then something unexpected happened. ChatGPT uninstalls surged 295% in a single day. Claude hit #1 on the App Store. A federal judge blocked the Pentagon's ban, calling it punitive. Data now shows that Anthropic holds approximately 40% of enterprise AI spend. That is up from 12% in 2023. Over roughly the same time period, OpenAI fell from 50% of enterprise AI spend to 27%. Principals turned out to be profitable. No one saw that coming. So while consumers may reward ethics, Wall Street rewards differently. Jack Dorsey cut 4,000 people at Block, that's Square and Cash App, and said, and I quote, a significantly smaller team using the tools we're building can do more and do it better. Well, of course, after cutting 4,000 people, their stock plummeted. Nope, correction. The stock went up 24%. The market, Wall Street, rewarded him for firing 40% of his people. So other companies thought, let's get in on this action. Atlassian followed with 1,600 cuts and replaced their CTO with two AI-centric focused executives. A Duke CFO survey of 750 companies found 44% of them planned AI-related cuts this year, with an expected total of 502,000. Yes, that's over 500,000 jobs. That is 9 times last year. Counterpoint, Mark Andreessen said that companies were 50 to 75% overstaffed from COVID rehiring, and AI is just a convenient excuse. Meanwhile, AI related job postings surged 92% with a 56% wage premium. The jobs are not necessarily disappearing, but they are transforming. And the question is how fast people can transform with them. So this is my favorite cautionary tale of the month. Sora was the most hyped AI product of 2025. OpenAI launched it to huge fanfare. I personally used it to make some amazing videos of red pandas blowing out birthday candles. But shockingly, I was not enough to keep them in business because I wasn't really paying for it. And in March, they killed it. The numbers have now started to get out, and they are brutal. $15 million per day was spent in compute costs for generating videos on Sora. Over the few months they had it in existence, they had 2.1 million in total revenue. Downloads collapsed 67% from the time they launched it to just 3 months later. Disney had committed $1 billion to a licensing partnership to get all the adorable fan favorite Disney characters into Sora. So OpenAI said, wow, $1 billion. We should probably give them less than an hour's notice before the public announcement. I want you to picture that phone call. Sam to, I probably one of the Bobs. Hey, Disney, about that $1 billion. Sora's web app ends on April 26th. API access ends in September. OpenAI is moving that compute they were aiming at Sora towards robotics. Elon Musk's XAI says, don't worry, consumers, we're going to fill the gap. And we're just going to see if anyone can make AI video work economically. So far, the answer is no. So we'll look back on a very specific thing that actually didn't get a lot of attention during the month of March. GPT 5.4 released on March 5th. So what? Models get released all the time. But this was the first AI model that operates a computer better than the average human. 75% on the OS World Computer Use Benchmark. The average human scores 72%. It has a million token context window, 33% fewer hallucinations than GPT 5.2. It's got a standard mode, a thinking mode, a pro mode. The mini version is actually available and free for all ChatGPT users. They also, in the same month, launched ChatGPT for Excel and Google Sheets, which is the part the finance world noticed, but most of the rest of the world also didn't notice that one either. Walmart tried in ChatGPT shopping, and conversion rates were 3 times worse than their actual website. So, congratulations, ChatGPT. You can use a computer better than I can, but you still can't get people to buy towels. But give it time. Swedish journalists broke this story in early March. Workers in Nairobi, employed by a data annotation firm called Sama, were reviewing footage from Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses. Footage of people undressing and using the toilet and having sex. The workers described the job as deeply uncomfortable, understatement of the year. A class action lawsuit was filed March 4th in Northern California. The UK's Information Commissioner demanded answers. The EFF published a warning telling consumers to think twice before buying the glasses. Meta's official position: media stays on your device unless you choose to share it. The gap between that claim and the reality of contract workers in Kenya reviewing your most private moments is really the core of the story. Design for privacy is more of a marketing phrase than a technical guarantee. CodeWall pointed an autonomous AI agent at McKinsey's internal chatbot called Lily. 40,000 McKinsey consultants use Lily daily. The agent found publicly exposed API documentation with 22 endpoints that required no authentication. It then found a SQL injection vulnerability, and 2 hours later, it had access to 46.5 million chat messages in plain text, 728,000 files with confidential client data, 57,000 user accounts, 95 system prompts. The system prompts were writable, meaning an attacker could have poisoned every response Lilly gave to every consultant, which they charged a lot of money to give to every client. McKinsey patched it within hours and said no client data was actually accessed by unauthorized parties. That is probably true, and it is entirely beside the point. The point is that an AI agent with no credentials did in 2 hours what would have taken a human penetration tester weeks if they figured it out at all. Enterprise AI security has become a very different conversation over the course of March. NVIDIA's annual GTC conference had a clear message this year. The chatbot era is over and the agent era has begun. We're waiting for Taylor Swift to have those two eras next. Jensen Huang projected 1 trillion in orders for Blackwell and Vera Rubin chips through 2027. The Vera Rubin system delivers 10 times more performance per watt than its predecessor. He also launched Nemo Claw, an open source enterprise AI agent platform. Partners like Adobe, Atlassian, they have the job cuts, Salesforce, and SAP are adopting it. And in a move that sounded a little bit like science fiction, NVIDIA launched Space One for orbital data centers, AI compute in actual space, 25 times more capability than their current hardware for satellite applications. And the markets responded by, of course, dropping during the keynote, because that same week, Time and Fortune both ran AI bubble stories, which is what they do whenever it's a slow news week. $1 trillion in projected orders from NVIDIA, and the market said, prove it. The tension between extraordinary demand and growing skepticism really defined the month when you can't even trust the most valuable company in the world to keep growing. On March 26, security researchers found nearly 3,000 Anthropic internal files sitting in a publicly accessible data store. There was a configuration error with their content management system. Somebody dumped some files out, didn't know by default those were public. Among those files was a draft blog post describing a model called Mythos, internally codenamed Capybara, which is adorably cute. Mythos is a new tier above Opus. According to their own documents, it is larger, more intelligent, and more expensive. Anthropic did confirm it exists and also called it a step change in capabilities. Of course, the part that made headlines is leaked documents warned that Mythos could significantly heighten cybersecurity risks by finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities faster than humans could defend against them. 5 days later, I guess not learning their lesson, on March 31st, Anthropic also accidentally leaked the full Claude Code source code. 500,000 lines across 1,900 files. Two major leaks in 1 week from a company whose entire pitch is safety and trust. Apropos of nothing, they also confirmed that they are considering an IPO as early as October of 2026. Irony is apparently not dead, but it is publicly accessible. Bloomberg reported on March 26 that Apple is abandoning the ChatGPT exclusive approach for Siri. iOS 27, expected in September, will let users pick from ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Claude or lots of other AI assistants to power Siri on their iPhone. Users will toggle providers on and off through a simple change in their settings. Google is reportedly paying Apple about $1 billion a year for the Gemini integration. Apple is expected to detail their plans at WWDC on June 8th. This really is a fundamental architecture change. Apple is turning Siri from a closed, internally controlled product into a more open platform. You've got 1 billion iPhones that get to now choose between AI providers. That is the largest AI distribution channel on the planet, and Apple just opened the door. Whoever wins on Siri wins the mainstream consumer. We have a rare AI retreat. Microsoft admitted it shoved too much AI into Windows. They pulled Copilot integrations out of Photos, widgets, the snipping tool, Notepad. System level integrations in Settings and File Explorer also got cut. Their EVP, Pavan Davaluri, said they are being more intentional about where Copilot shows up. That is corporate speak for users hated it, and shockingly, we listened. And then in the same month, Microsoft launched Copilot Cowork. It handles multi-step work across Outlook and Teams and Excel. The twist is that it's powered by Anthropic's Claude. That is the competitor's model running inside Microsoft's flagship product. They also added a really interesting critique feature where one model generates an answer and a different model reviews it before you actually see it. And they moved Mustafa Suleyman off of Copilot to focus on building new models. The message from Microsoft is we are done forcing AI everywhere, and we also have to branch out. And we're going to put it where it actually helps. I saved this one because it is simultaneously the silliest and maybe most important story on the list. An account called AI.cinema021 launched an AI-generated TikTok series. It's anthropomorphic fruits competing on a Love Island-style dating show. You got characters named Bananito, Strawberryna, Mangela, 3 million followers in 9 days. Individual episodes are averaging around 10 million views. They have over 300 million total views across this completely ridiculous series. TikTok started removing the episodes, classifying them as low quality AI generated material, aka AI slop, which is an interesting editorial judgment when 300 million people chose to watch it. Plus, have you seen some of the non AI generated slop on TikTok? The question isn't whether AI can make content that people watch. Apparently, it can. The question is, what the heck do platforms do when AI generated entertainment starts to outperform human created content and engagement metrics? Nobody has a good answer for that. And yes, I just spent 45 seconds of your time talking about a banana named Bananito. You're welcome. Paul Cunningham is a tech entrepreneur in Sydney, and his dog Rosie got mast cell cancer. She was going to have to go and live on a farm far away from home for her last days. Chemo and surgery were not working. So he went to ChatGPT and said, where should I go with research? And ChatGPT suggested maybe AlphaFold for protein structure prediction, and maybe custom machine learning for neoantigen selection. He did this and then worked with researchers at the University of New South Wales to manufacture a personalized mRNA vaccine. Yes, for a dog, because dogs are amazing creatures and they deserve to bring happiness. So after 2 injections, Rosie's largest tumor shrank by 75%. Now, let's be clear about the caveats. This was a person who had $3,000 to spend on genomic sequencing. It required 300 gigabytes of tumor data. He had access to a world-class university lab. Oncologists urge caution and take your hopes down a bit. This was one dog. This was one major tumor. It was not a controlled trial. It is not replicable at scale right now. But what it does show is that a determined amateur with AI tools who loves his dog very, very much designed a personalized cancer vaccine that worked. Where personalized medicine goes when AI tools get this capable, it's going to be an amazing time. 4 themes came out in March. First, ethics became a market force. Anthropic refused the Pentagon, got punished by the government, and got rewarded by the market. Second, the AI layoff wave got real and got contested. Block cut 40%. CFOs expect 500,000 AI cuts this year, but Andreessen says companies are overstaffed by 75% and AI is a convenient excuse. Third, the agent era replaced the chatbot era. GPT 5.4 can now beat humans at operating a computer. An AI agent hacked McKinsey in 2 hours. NVIDIA pivoted their entire conference from hardware to talk about agent deployments. These tools do not just talk back and forth with us anymore, they act. Fourth, we have AI generated entertainment. Fruit Love Island got 300 million views, so TikTok started removing it. The question has gone from can AI make content people watch to, oh shoot, they're watching it, what are we going to do about it? And somewhere in Sydney, a dog named Rosie is cancer free because her owner dared to believe it was possible. As always, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where that QR code takes you, and X/Twitter. My podcast, Asking Good Questions, is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or you can go get it off of my website along with a bunch of blog entries at roski.ai. Or just shoot me an email and ask me anything on your mind. I'm Edward Roski with the AI News, and until next time, keep asking good questions.